I propose that we just do a first round. I will begin that way. And you present yourself very briefly. What is your company? Because you have all the company in the book you have, if you have more information. But present briefly who you are, what is your company, what you are doing, and perhaps 3 or 4 key figures about traction, what's your business. Please.
Great, thank you. My name is Nick Bortot. I'm a founder and CEO of Bucks, based in Amsterdam. What we basically do is we make stock trading much more fun. We think that there are a lot of people who are appealed by the stock markets, but most platforms are very complex, expensive. So we have an app, we're making it fun, we're making it exciting, educational. We started 2.5 years ago. We have over 700,000 users now in 7 countries in Europe. And soon we'll be launching in France.
That's quick.
Hi, my name is Alex Graubner. I'm founder and CEO of Kreditech. And Kreditech provides access to finance. We're a consumer finance company and do consumer lending. We operate in 5 markets and focus on providing capital to underbanked consumers. And we are able to do that because we have developed a new approach to do credit rating by using alternative data and machine learning. And that gives us a very, very powerful rating instrument on hand to compile credit ratings for consumers that banks are not able to serve credit to. And we are 4 years, by now almost 5 years in the market. We finished last year originating around 130 million in loans. We did around 50 million euros in revenue, and so far have underwritten more than 5 million loans since the beginning of the company.
Are you profitable?
Not yet.
I will ask the question to all of you.
We have a clear path ahead of us to get there.
I forgot to ask you. Are you profitable?
If we stop marketing.
I think I will have this answer a lot today. Stuart?
Hello, my name is Stuart Lacey. I'm the founder and CEO of Trunomi. Trunomi offers financial institutions a platform allowing you to capture consent to use customer data, transferring that into rights to use across the entire organization. We are a US-based company with offices in London as well. We work with some of the world's largest companies such as FIS, PwC, Fujitsu. We are not profitable, but we're venture-backed, but we're growing quickly.
How much money did you raise until now?
We've raised 9.5 million US.
Yeah, my name is Rohit, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Biz2Credit. So Biz2Credit is one of the oldest, I would say, fintech companies. We were founded in 2008. What we have really focused is on the SME credit marketplaces, build an end-to-end marketplace. We have done over 1.6 billion in lending in US. This year we are targeting to do another 600 million in US, and now we have also expanded the business into Australia, India, and we will be launching it in UK in second or third quarter of 2017. And what we have done during the whole process is that we have built all the credit rating models also, which are now being used by a lot of our banking partners in US, and now we're expanding it into the other markets also.
Hey, my name's Ollie. I'm the CEO and founder of Loot. We are a new challenger bank in the UK focused on students and millennials. We came out of beta and launched a full account last month. We're currently working through a waiting list of around 20,000 with iOS, Android, and web.
And I'm Daniel. I'm CEO and founder of mobile banking service Tink, based out of Stockholm in Sweden. What we do is we let the user basically manage all her bank accounts across different banks in one single app. We started off as a third-party aggregation service with the classical PFM features. We aggregate data, put a layer of smartness on it. And just a few months ago, we also launched the ability to move money. So we basically initiate payments from the Tink app, let you do any type of transfer payment between own accounts to others. So 98% of all bank errands you do in your regular bank app, you can now do inside Tink. And on top of this, we're now launching a marketplace where you seamlessly can sign up for new banking services inside Tink. And we have a rev share model with those partnering banks. We have 400,000 users in Sweden. We're in a beta in a few more markets. Raised 13 million euros.
How much, sorry?
400,000 users in Sweden.
Sorry, you said how much money you raised?
13 million euros.
13, which is comparable to Fintech, for example, or not so far off banking in France, who raised just 10 million recently in PFM industry. So thank you for this first short of presentation. What I wanted to do this morning with all these very different people is to show you Fintech is one word, but so many realities. You are quite different in your business. So this year, we had a lot of buzz about those subjects. So for example, Daniel, who just spoke about PFM with PSD2 rising. That's just crazy about your business and so many fundraising for a business which is old. I mean, we had PFM on stage 7 years ago already. Many of them are dead. You are lucky still there, and you raise money now because with PSD2, we have many things we can ask a question about that. Ollie is quite different from the other because the other has quite already a lot of figures. You are more beginnings, but that's also Fintech. We are, how old are you already, Ollie?
23.
Yeah, 23. I have always a problem asking you that. So we have many young people launching things, and that's also Fintech. You can try to launch a bank 23 years old and saying that's normal in the morning. That's also Fintech. That's crazy. Credit in the States is really big, huge sector. That I wanted Rohit to be there because that's a really important sector right now. Even if in France it's still very, very beginning, but that's a big one. RegTech, we have a full day on RegTech today on regulation because most of the innovation we have in Fintech since the last 8 years are due to regulation. And at the end of the day, you can begin to innovate, but when you have volumes, you have issue with regulation and you need some specialized people. We'll come back to that. Credit, the same for the States, but to see in Europe, we have some few successful ones. I wanted Alexander also to show you that. And last but not least, we are in Palais Brognard, stock trading. Wealth management is also a subject not so new. 20 years ago already, we had trading, Fintech, but it's growing more and more today with new things. That's why to do a first presentation. So to come back to you, in your geography, I will ask you about the same question, all of you, because you are very different, and I want the attendees to understand your point of view. So in your geography, what happened today in Fintech? What is not only your business, but what's hot, what's new around you?
Yeah, I think when we look at the Netherlands, what's quite interesting is that the large banks are picking up now, and I'm especially amazed by ING. They have let go, I think, 1/3 of their people and hired a lot of bright new young people. They completely turned into working in the agile way. So I think I went to a lot of Fintech conferences, and 1 year ago and 2 years ago, it was like the small companies are going to win and the big companies are going to lose. But I don't think that's the case anymore. It's also good for the people here in the room who work for a big company to hear that. So I think there's big change going on at the incumbents.
So this is a very good point. Before going to the same question, do you all agree that this year we've seen much more and more cooperation between big and small? It's not anymore the war will win against you. Do you have all the same opinion? Please confirm.
No, I mean, for sure. I think that what sparked it all was the PSD2, for us at least in our industry, was the PSD2 discussion. So banks saw that, well, there's no turning back anymore. And I think maybe half of them decided, well, I want to be a winner in this new industry, and started to move accordingly. And I think, ING, and there are a few ones in the Nordics as well that really stands out.
Because in your industry, PFM, so personal finance management, we have so many existing today, and as perhaps most of you know, until next year or 6 months from now, it's in the gray zone. So it's most of the time screen scrapping with password. You ask to the user, they can do it, you can do it, but it's, let's say, a gray zone. With PSD2, everything is changing. Did you see, thanks to that, a real difference in your discussion, negotiation with bank? Do you manage to have, let's say, good discussion and collaboration?
I mean, it has been a mindset change in the Nordics. I think that the Nordics has been less hostile than Southern Europe, where you have more lawsuits and blockings, etc. So it's definitely improving. I mean, we never did screen scraping. So what we still do is that we reverse engineer the non-public APIs of the banks and aggregate data and initiate payments just the same way as the bank's regular app would do, which gives you, great quality basically compared to screen scraping. So for us, it's not like a major difference with the PSD2. I mean, it's obviously out there how the final static or the technical standards would look like, but no major difference.
But by the way, banks will be your best friend. You told us you have a marketplace. You will sell their product.
Sorry, say again.
You told us you have a marketplace.
Yes.
So you will sell their product.
Exactly. I mean,
so they will be your best friend.
Yeah. So this is completely new to us. So we're launching with five banks that we partner with in Sweden, where we seamlessly let you sign up for those, and that wouldn't happen 2 years ago for sure.
I understand the use case for you. Just a question. As a user, if I take a PFM, it's, let's say, to be independent from my bank and see all my accounts and so on. Won't you be tied with the banks to propose me a service who pays you more, to propose me, I don't know, ENG because you have a good deal with them? Will you still be this independent actor I'm looking for?
No, so I think what we bring is the independency to this, and for the user to be able to choose what's right for me. So coming in with my old bank, that's working. If I don't like Tink, I'll leave it the same the next day, but then I can then slowly start replacing the bad products in my bank. And I think for us, we need to be competitive in every single customer interaction. If the bank is better, they provide nice PFM, then of course they're going to win the customer.
Come back to you, Alexander. I must say something. I had 600 applications, so if you don't like the 125 companies you have in the book, I am the only responsible, because I did my choice alone. I don't like to share. And I must say that the country where I have the best application was Germany. I'm French, sorry, but I must say that if I take the ratio of the company I kept and the companies that applied, they were all of very good quality. So I have a question on your geography. It appears to me from France that it's quite a mature market with real, not so many, but when they go really. So can you tell us a bit more about German fintech market?
Yeah, the interesting thing is, we are based in Germany and we're headquartered in Germany. We actually don't do business in Germany. we are active in 5 markets around the world. So, but still, we see, what's happening in the market. So I can share a few thoughts around that, as well as, a bit of also what we see in other markets. So the interesting thing in Germany is that. The banking sector is very, very fragmented. You have 2 or 3 larger banks, but then you have sort of like this long tail of saving unions and so on. And the problem is that most of the large banks, have been tied up still sort of like in the aftermath of the financial crisis. Deutsche Bank, if you read the news, they have been, majorly dealing with all the sort of like aftermath of the crisis. So there has been very, very, very little invested over the last couple of years, in really coming out with innovative products. The idea was always that, the German customer is a bit sort of like, on the conservative side, so doesn't necessarily, like to explore new financial products. So that has always sort of like been a bit the stigma. But I think what we have seen over the last couple of years, that once, they actually rose sort of like this entrepreneurial activity in the space, that there is actually, a very open and big market to serve. And if you manage to place basically to launch a company successful in Germany, you already have access to, the largest market pretty much in Europe. And
yeah, but if I may, you just mentioned something very interesting. You are German, your company is German, you have a lot of fun, but you don't work in Germany with your company.
In our case, it's
no, because it's not your only case. If I may. You will see today other German companies, and it's not your only case. For example, I don't know if most of you go in Germany often, but very hard to pay with a credit card. And one of my sponsors is Wirecard, the best issuer, biggest issuer in prepaid, but try to pay with a credit card in Berlin. So it seems that in Germany you do a lot of business model for outside.
Well, we're an export-oriented nation, so I think that always has been...
so you managed to do that also in fintech. Let us something.
No, but I think absolutely that is something that works quite well. I do think that, in our case, for instance, we were just looking into, which are markets, I think, which bear the biggest potential for our technology. So basically countries, with a large share of underbanked consumers. Germany sort of like was not sort of like in the top list. So we said, well, let's go first into the markets where we see the biggest opportunity. But let's stay in Germany to develop the technology and basically to run that business. And that's working pretty well for us.
Thank you. Stuart, last year you were already in my fintech selection, and the flag was not the same. I think you were Bermuda or UK, and now you are States. You are growing internationally, so you change your headquarters to manage that, or tell us a bit more about the going international from your point of view.
Yeah, thank you. We have 3 kind of coexisting offices. I've lived actually in Bermuda for 18 years, and funnily enough, that's just where we founded the company, but it's a tremendous place for us to host, write, and capture all of our IP and our patents on our platform. So for an intellectual property standpoint, that's its purpose. We always knew that we would want to access US capital markets. And so we added a Delaware topco about 2 years ago when we started going off to venture funding. And we raised capital both in East Coast and West Coast US. And
so it was a successful strategy.
Yes, and then all of our development is Silicon Valley, and I still think there's something magical that comes out of the Valley in terms of user experience. And it's a complicated and competitive market, definitely, to grow a dev team. And then all of our European operations are based out of London, driven largely by Reg, GDPR, PSD2, et cetera. So we focus all of our European activities out of London.
But where do you have real activity? So you raise funds in the States, you develop in the States. Where do you have customers?
Europe.
Mainly Europe.
Yep.
Which countries?
So driven primarily out of UK, but we're seeing a lot of traction now in Italy and Spain as well. US is following, but it's interesting. I think US is following in verticals such as InsurTech, and other areas that are neighboring in Reg, but are more interested in kind of the path of customer data and the access to and the utility of customer data. IoT is now a big driver for permission and consent. And so I think the US is following a slightly different track than just financial RegTech. But it's definitely, I think, following suit from a competitive landscape.
Thank you. Rohit, same question. Tell us a bit more about the States fintech market. What happened today? What is noticeable?
Yeah, so in US, what is starting to happen is alternative lending. We were all clubbed in that, group for, I would say, for 6 years of our existence, where, banks were saying that, okay, you guys are alternative lending either, on your balance sheet or marketplaces. And, US being such a deep capital market, there were a lot of family offices and hedge funds and credit funds, which have been providing source of capital. In last 2 years, we have started seeing 2 distinct trends. One is a lot of alternative lending companies are starting to actually go under because they haven't been able to manage the risk well and their cost. And there is a lot of consolidation which is starting to happen, at least in 2016, because prior to that, a lot of VC money was there in the market, and that started drying up. And then the second thing is we are seeing more banks now, starting to look at the market and starting to partner. We just partnered with like 5 large banks in US, which we are rolling out our platforms with. And there's a lot of interest now in looking at the technology and data scorecards, both including artificial intelligence, machine learning stuff. So finally, it's starting to happen. And I think the other big thing that we are seeing is that, there's a lot of march of the customers are going online. So more well-established businesses, which earlier were like, very much skeptical about going online. So I think that's starting to happen in US in next 2 years. I foresee a lot more. And with the OCC coming out for fintech companies, that there is going to be a bank charter possibility, because US is behind the curve. Unlike UK and some of the other markets where you can go and get a bank license, US, that hasn't happened till now. So I think in 2017, that's going to be one big development in our fintechs, especially in the lending space. The second big development is going to be more partnership with banks. And then the third is already we are seeing a lot more consolidation in the market, as we can see that only very few players are going to be left in the market. So I think US is at least 4 years, in the cycle, where other Europe or Asia are 4 years behind. So like we'll see that in other markets also. And I think what we are also starting to see globally is that more and more banks as well as non-banks are starting to get interested in partnering in fintech. And in some other markets, like say India, is becoming very interesting because of the recent demonetization, that the economy is going to go from totally non-digital to pretty much a digital economy in next 2 years' time. So I think that's going to be a big push for a lot of growth coming in the Asian markets also. Yeah.
In which geography are you selling your products? Sorry, besides the States.
Yeah.
In which geography are you selling your product?
Yeah. So the other big development we started seeing in 2016, as we said, was that there was a lot of international, interest coming in. So we just launched it in Australia with the largest broker as well as 14 of the largest banks and non-banks. We have launched in India now with some of the largest banks and non-banks, and we are also launching it in UK, as we said, with a very large bank. So what we are seeing is a lot of demand coming in now globally, and also the business models are getting more mature and more evolved, where it was all about going in every market on your own, to more partnerships and more local ecosystems getting developed, where it will become more of a collaborative models, and banks looking more at technology, data science, while fintech companies looking more for local infrastructure support, which is very expensive and difficult to replicate on its own.
And last question for that, as you are coming to Europe, do you find it easy or difficult to begin to launch in Europe?
So I would say over last 1.5 years, we had a lot of discussions with banks in Denmark, Netherlands, UK. So we found initially it was, US is a pretty attractive market at one level. So also it's also a question of, how much, and such a big market. So the question also is that when we look at Europe, sitting from New York, sometimes we feel, the market moves at a slower pace and the market is smaller. But I think having said that, over last year now, we are starting to see more opportunity in Europe, and also more understanding of the how the fintech will mature. Because I think initially it was all about, banks coming in and saying, okay, give me a shiny front end and I want to compete with the startups and do all that kind of stuff. I think now they're starting to see that, no, it has to be a full end-to-end platforms, where the efficiencies have to go up and the workflows have to go up. And it's not just about user experience for the customer, it's also about the user experience for the employees. I think a lot of people forget that these employees walk into a room every day, they're using their iPhones and every cool device, and when they work on a banking platform, it's like still 90s platforms. So they really hate it. So I think that's where it's getting more interesting. I still feel Europe, with UK, with Brexit coming in, there is more concern right now, among banks that how that will pan out. I think in some of the other European markets, we are starting to see more traction. Asia is obviously going to grow faster than Europe. It looks like that right now.
Sorry, you mentioned the word Brexit, I have to ask. So seeing from your part of the world, what is your vision about the impact of Brexit on the fintech industry?
So I think with Brexit coming in, I think Trump coming in, in US, the economy in short term is going to get better, especially for businesses, and there's a lot of optimism among banks. Banks are going to get more aggressive. There is going to be more partnership. I think Brexit is a little bit of a question mark right now, as we are talking to a lot of banks in UK. So the question is that, how that's going to pan out. But still, I feel the march of fintech is not going to stop anymore. And I think some of the other markets like France or Germany and other bigger economies in Europe will actually get more benefited because of that. So I think one of the key things for us, or for me to come here also, was to look at and talk to some of the French banks also now to see how they are thinking about fintech and what are the opportunities more in mainland Europe besides UK also.
Welcome in Paris. Ollie, last year you were on the pitch stage, more in a beta version. What happened in 1 year?
So we went live with a full kind of product. So last year we launched a test account just to see if we could build something that looked like a bank account and looked like it worked, which kind of worked quite well. And then we spent all this year building what we wanted to build, which was a full current account that could help you get more out of your money, and then something as well called Goals, which is a savings account. So a Loot user can open up their app, they can see how much money they're able to spend for the day, so we can automatically budget for them. And then any money that they want to put aside to save for a holiday or a trip, they tell us how much money they need, what date they need it by, and we save them automatically. So that's pretty cool. We noticed from our user base they're very overserved, but very poorly served. And when it comes to like students and millennials, the biggest questions are how much money can I spend and how can I save for a trip I want to do. So what we did in last year was build a product that can answer all of those questions. And now we're working on 2017 and how we build more products that answer more questions our user base have.
So, sorry, I just asked an American citizen what it is to go to with Brexit. What do you think of Brexit, my friend? 23-year-old, I think you didn't vote for Brexit.
No, I was one of the few that didn't. So I think it's interesting. I think the biggest thing that people don't think about is the investor community. Pretty much every VC has said that they're not going to be affected by Brexit and they're still going to invest in UK companies, which is probably a lie because all of a sudden you go from a London-based fintech with the access to the whole of Europe to just access to one market. And no matter what, that does affect your ability to grow and your ability to scale, and it can really increase your cost base. So I think it'll be interesting to see what really happens this year with the investor community because that will stop new fintechs coming up. So with PSD2, it was meant to open up and have new competition, but can competition get funded in the UK with kind of less access to talent and less ability to scale?
And you know that France, Netherlands, Germany, all of them, they have like task force, war room, my friends there, to try to tell you, please come to my country. If we listen to them, they'll receive 100 letters a day to come, but really in your fintech community, is it something right now you are working on a plan B if for whatever reason the negotiation is not a good one for you, or you just don't have time for that and you will see that later? Are you looking already for, I don't know, a flat nearby this place?
A lot of fintechs I know are already setting up a European base, or they already have one. We're quite lucky that half of our team are based in Poland, so we've already got a Polish company and a Polish team.
Not yet, but the regulation and so on, you will have to move. So.
True, true. We're also fairly lucky that we're not planning on a European launch anytime soon. So from our perspective, our scope is fairly limited in how Brexit's going to affect us. So we're kind of set up in a good position.
Oh, just a question makes me think, how many of you are a part of the development team in Poland? Personally, I have. You have, you said?
No,
No?
everyone based in Stockholm.
You have some in Poland?
Yes.
No, we have everyone in Amsterdam as well. We really prefer to just be in one office, close to each other.
Everything there. No, I say that because in at least 1/3 of the fintech I interviewed to come here, they had fintech developer in Poland. So we didn't have a lot of application from fintech from Poland, but many developers are there. So, Ollie, last question for you. Last dinner we had a few months ago, you told me, before your event, I will be launching in the US. Where are you on that?
Yeah, that's on track for this year.
On track for this year?
Yeah, so we're one of the key markets for us is the US, and there's a few others as well because the attitudes towards banking for millennials are very similar between the UK and the US.
But in the US, I mean, are you the same as Stuart? Are you raising a new headquarters there to raise money from there, or are you rebuilding everything, or just partnerships?
No, we would have a UK and a US presence. Yeah.
Both. Okay. And I mean, do you think the market is not too late for you? Because we have seen already many millennial banks in the US. I mean, Moven is this afternoon is there, Simple and so on.
I don't think so. I think the interesting thing is consumer attitudes to fintechs is more advanced. So people are more likely to try a startup or something new in the US. If you just look at downloads in the App Store for finance apps, it's way, way beyond what the UK is. So people are more receptive to it, but there's also less competition, and the competition are very, very focused on different areas. So I'd say Simple, for instance, is a much older demographic than us. Same with Moven. So we've got the ability to go into a market where people are more open to fintechs. Because of the regulatory landscape, it's much harder for companies to break in there. But then when you do, you've got access to kind of a captive audience.
And last, why you don't try France or Germany or Italy?
Well, as much as I would love to. I think the problem for us is Europe, every country is very different. And in the US, the parts are definitely different, but you've got one language, you've got one currency, you've got kind of one assumption.
Okay, we have one on the both. We have one currency in most of the countries for now. But just again, that question that's very important. One language. I'm speaking English. Many people told me you shouldn't. You are in Paris. You speak French, and they have to adapt. I think we have to adapt to the international language. But what strikes me is, in Europe, we have a single European union and also for directive laws, PSD1, PSD2, DME2. Every people told me that in the States, you have 50 states, 50 regulation. But even with that, you say it's simpler because of what, the language?
No, I think if you can break in, and that's the part that getting through the regulatory burden's a bit of a nightmare. So it is harder for new entrants to get in. We're lucky that we've picked really good partners, so we're able to kind of leap over all of those hurdles. And that's helped us get in. Otherwise, Europe is easier for regulatory stuff.
Okay. Daniel, I asked a question just a minute ago about Poland, a bit of a joke, but many people last year said on Twitter, LinkedIn, many fintech people that it was difficult to hire good people in fintech. Do you have in your geography this kind of difficulties to hire good people?
I mean, it is hard competition for talent in Stockholm for sure. And I mean, we should probably blame Spotify and Klarna and a few others. We're still fairly small, so a team of 30. So we kind of, I mean, not under the radar, but still, I think the real challenge is when you are approaching 100 or 200, 300 employees. That's much harder. So we've been happy, super lucky so far, but it is a very challenging environment.
This question for a bit all of you. Is it difficult to recruit today talents in your industry?
Absolutely, yes. We're an app. We're mobile only, and it's extremely hard to find good mobile developers.
Only developers, or also any kind of people in your companies, or it's only developers the difficulty?
Backend is easier, but mobile developers are very hard. So we have to introduce all kind of perks, like working from Bali for one month a year.
Okay. I apply.
to bi-weekly hackathon. So you have to invent a lot of things to keep them happy.
Alexander,
Yeah, so I think, I mean, clearly developers are hard to find. I think even more difficult is to find people actually in the data science world. I think that's even rarer. So we actually started our own education program to take people, I mean, who have a software background and send them through a 6-month course to basically educate them on data science. The other big thing, which I really, I mean, did not expect when we started the company, but that is actually also a challenge, is to find specialists in areas like compliance, international tax, credit risk controlling. So really like
we have 500 bankers here. We have many compliance people. If you want to change business.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, we get a lot of applications from bankers, particularly over the last 1 or 2 years. I think, I mean, from Deutsche Bank, we have received, 100 applications and so on. The problem is most of the time that the people are like so specialized because they have done for a lot of years, I mean, just basically one bit of vertical. And I think in a startup, you need to have people who can, I mean, who are experienced in the depth, but who can also handle a larger press. And that's, I mean, a very, very difficult combination to find, at least in our experience.
This is the last question for everybody. Is it also difficult to recruit in your industry?
I think many of the guys on stage would probably agree that great companies with great cultures tend to attract good talent. And I think a lot of that is driven by their placement in the market, their velocity, their ability to offer fair compensation for both equity and capital. And I think, for example, for us, more than 2/3 of our entire company are all network-related hires, people that we worked with before or have approached us and left other organizations. So I actually don't find it as challenging, although there's tremendous shortage in certain specific areas, data science, AI, machine learning to be an example, yeah.
Rohit?
Yeah, I think fintech is getting pretty hot in terms of the talent stuff. So mobile, is one area, AI, machine learning. So we have like 150 people in our development center in India. And what we are finding is that, it was, so now we get more experienced people because the industry has matured, but also, you lose out some people because once they get great experience, they want to move on. So I think that's starting to happen. So I think it's getting more challenging at one level. You have to not only pay them more, but also give them a clear path towards a progression faster. And I think also the whole thing about is, that how you give them more exposure, and that's it. And that's a twin-edge kind of a sword, because as they get more exposure, they can also move on. But I think it's getting more challenging, but also more interesting in that sense, that how the space will evolve. In New York area, we are starting to find more talent because of more consolidation happening in the industry now. So I think that's where we are seeing some ease in pressure, right now compared to last year.
Thank you. One word for the French people, because I don't have French company here, but if you ask to France Fintech Association, all the CEO of France Fintech Association are recruiting. So they all need talents, and we have a shortage of good talents a bit everywhere. With what you mentioned, either really focused developers, but in any kind of the business, we need people who can do many things, which is not usually the culture in big corporation. In big corp, you are used to do just one subject. So this is one of the subjects. Thank you very much all. Sorry, I had other questions, but we are so late, so we are a bit tight. You are all waited, I think, in other panels or in other pitches. Thank you very much for coming, and I think you can applaud all of them.
Thank you.
Thank you.